Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim and Ain't Easy Show. Your host with the most, Chandler and Patti. And we've got a special guest today. We're super excited. He says it's a great day down in Texas, so we're going to take his word for it. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, Tex?
Hey, guys. Tex McQuilkin, Director of Training at Power Athlete. And, I'm not one for titles, but I guess I got to put something on the business card to impress people because, the letters behind your name, they don't seem to work anymore. So just try to get creative. I toured around with Chief of Optimal Performance, right? You got John Wellborn as the CEO of Power Athlete, and I wanted to be the cop, but I don't know if that got any traction. So Director of Training, Power Athlete, and here to really talk about, I guess, our methodology, how it compares to other people's approaches to fitness, developing athletes, and really kind of empowering people's performance no matter what they're training for.
I like that. And I like your guys' methodology. It's always been something that I've looked at that makes sense, getting people in a sort of sense strong and in a good strength base before we throw them into anything else or get crazy with them outside of that. So talk to me a little bit about how the approach works and what the philosophy is behind the Power Athlete methodology.
Well, I've worked with I've strong collegiate strength and conditioning background, so I've worked with a lot of programs, not as a head coach, but just applying different programs. And a lot of coaches have philosophies. And instead of being a philosophy-based strength and conditioning organization, we are a principle-based strength and conditioning organization, right? We get different athletes come in from different sports, different cultures, different backgrounds, so we can't really approach one philosophy. But what you can't deny, and you really can't out-program, out biohack, hack's a new word, right? A principle-based. So biological laws, application, and the cornerstone really of how we design programs, the SAID principle. That stands for specific adaptation to imposed demands. That's where we take a goal, right? Whether it's lacrosse, football, basketball, any sport, or the sport of fitness, and we reverse engineer a program based off the demands of that sport, that goal, and then we assess the athlete. And so how far is the athlete away from the demands necessary to succeed? And that's where we develop the program, right? There's many approaches where it's just really throw a bunch of random workouts up on the wall and call it art. No, we're going to look at the demands of the sport, and then we identify where our athletes' limitations are. We develop a program. So we offer a variety of program now based off goals. So if you check out our training programs that we offer, we have Field Strong, we have Jack Street, we have Grindstone, and Necessary is Bedrock. So all these different programs are based off goals. Bedrock, it establishes a base level of strength, and that base level of strength, whether we're in high school or experience weightlifting for the first time, that's the platform for which athleticism is built. A lot of coaches fall in the trap of doing something or applying their program to their athletes, but they forget the years that it took them to get to their level as a coach, as an athlete themselves. So that's a fallacy, right? You need to give beginner athletes a beginner program, and that's our bedrock. So no matter an athlete's background, whether they played high school ball or Division III ball, it doesn't matter. We're going to put them on this program to really establish a baseline for which we can really make the magic happen and unlock athletic potential. Jack Street's also one of our more popular programs because it just focuses on, right, the aesthetics, a lot of the show muscles that guys that aren't playing sports anymore, or female athletes that aren't playing sports, so they just want to look good. Well, we understand that. So that's going to be our program for those athletes that just want to really, build a house on Jack Street and just freaking look good, right? They may not be able to, win any freaking street races or foot races, but hell, they're going to look good going down in a blaze of glory. So that's pretty much it, man. We're a principle-based approach to strength and conditioning, and we look at different goals or different sports and demands, check out where an athlete is, and guide them there.
I like that. I like approach from. I have a little bit. But I like the approach from the athlete methodology. It makes a lot of sense, and it puts people in a good position before they get into the crazy stuff. So talk to me a little bit about the philosophy of introducing a new person to a program from a goal-based approach. So you have a brand new person, they have these goals they want to achieve. How do we work backwards and how do we build on that?
So we have a variety of assessment tools that we put into place, and they're all movement based. So if you're familiar with the functional movement screening, right, that's a good tool. I'm not going to talk down to it, but at the same time, it can be gamed, it can be played, and we don't want to provide just a score towards an athlete. No, we need to give them assessments that they're also able to improve upon. So anyone that's done our program, they're familiar with our dead bugs or any of our warm-up movements. Our warm-ups are assessment tools. We just call them warm-ups, but they're also the corrective exercises. So that's a big part of it, is we got to identify how an athlete moves, right? It's not going to be a 1RM test, or it's not going to be a speed test. Those are not our assessment tools to identify what an athlete needs. We're going to base it off of a movement test. And then we use weights, we use speed, we use all these different modalities, right? Conditioning as a way to continue to assess, but also stress our athletes, because that's how we're going to progress. So it is a full system. And then if you jump on Field Strong, that's probably our best example of warm up, strength, power, speed, training of the day, and then a cool down. So it's a complete strength and conditioning program. Every single day is an opportunity to, one, assess, correct, and then we got to add stress so we can progress our athletes. I'm not hearing you guys. I think we're on mute.
Go. So it sounds like Patti might be having audio problems over there. But so let's talk about the power athlete methodology and in conjunction principles are. And it makes sense when you think about these two things together. Like you guys have this goal-based approach, working backwards and helping people achieve their goals in almost a personalized format. And the Madlab methodology is introducing people to fitness in a one-on-one format, and the programs and the practical aspects of what they're doing, and to essentially make sure they don't die before they go into group classes. So let's talk a little bit about using those two methodologies together. We obviously haven't figured everything out yet, but what are your thoughts on these things working together in conjunction?
Well, it's a great opportunity for a coach to learn one-on-one, right? Leading a group, say we're one coach to 10 athletes, one coach to 20 athletes. There's too much margin for error there. Right? We want to decrease that. So working one-on-one is an opportunity for you as a strength and conditioning coach to, one, create your voice, and two, practice seeing the movements. So you're only focusing on that one athlete to see the faults. Then you're working on your ability to effectively communicate the corrections or put them in a position to see how these different positions or how the corrections you do apply affect the movement, right? It's another trap. It's another fallacy for a coach to just say, all right, if you see this, say this cue, and that's going to make a correction. No, because our athletes have different levels of learning, different styles of learning. And one thing that I love, just coaches are teachers. I love to reference that. So if there's a teaching model that or a track that I can put a coach on to help them become better teachers, learners, lecturers, or presenters or coaches, then we do it. One of my favorites is called the competency model. So the competency model, there's 4 stages, and I know the coaches have seen this in their experience. It's just a model to put these to a name. The first level in the competency model is called unconscious incompetence. This is where an athlete doesn't know that they're doing anything wrong, right? You provide a cue, a direction as a coach, and they're like, I wasn't doing that. Well, why else would I provide that direction as a coach? Yes, you were in this position. So a big part of that level, unconscious incompetence, is the athlete doesn't value your direction. It is a problem, but it's a necessary stage. Unfortunately, a lot of athletes never graduate from that. The next stage is going to be conscious incompetence, meaning the athlete is aware that they're screwing up. I'm trying not to curse here, guys. They're aware.
You're allowed.
Okay. They're aware that they're fucking up the movements, and they do 1, 2, or 3 reps, and they look at you and they're like, "How was that? That wasn't it." So they know something's wrong. They just can't quite exactly piece it together. Maybe 1 out of 3 reps during that Olympic lifting is good. It's on, but it's not consistent. Then we start to progress into with enough opportunity and exposure and coaching, then you progress into what's known as conscious competence. All right. This is where you're thinking about the movement. You're thinking about every squat during the set, every clean during the set, and you're able to get consistency in the execution. Great stage. And this is where a lot of our personal training clients cap in their learning experience, is just focusing on the movement. This becomes a problem when we're dealing with field and court sport athletes, because they're thinking about squatting, stepping, and lunging. That is slow, right? We want our athletes to move into the next phase that's unconscious competence, meaning they don't have to think about the squat, the step, the lunge. It's just second nature. And they're moving at a speed, a rate, a power in which they honestly can't consciously focus on the execution, but you know it's dialed in. This frees them up to read the defense, communicate to the teammates, see what's going on in the scheme of the sport, whatever that sport may be, and their footwork, their hips, their posture, everything is dialed in because we've done it at a high stress an infinite number of times during our training. So we want to develop our athletes to that point. That is athleticism, where we work so damn hard during the off season. Come sport time, we just set them free out there to be aesthetically pleasing, right? Odell Beckham Jr. freaking making those amazing catches, just setting him free. But he's twisted, he's rotated, he's bent, he's sprinted, he's done everything he needs to. It's just then during competition, he's tooled up to make those plays.
A couple of things. Can you guys finally hear me, or is it? I think the feedback all of a sudden cuts this off or something. Can you guys hear me all right now?
Gotcha.
Now you got
Awesome.
So just took 12.
I'm at the dude's house here in Atlanta, so there's some ghosts and goblins here through the network. But Tex, that really makes a lot of sense to me. Everything I was listening to is like, yeah. And then when you talk about unconscious competence, brings me back to my golf swing.
Oh.
And I think I've gone through a few sections. I haven't been unconscious competence in about 10 years. I think I'm finally getting to conscious competence, where actually, if I think about it, I can execute it, but getting to that next step would be beautiful. That was one thing that really stuck out in my mind there. I think the other thing that stuck out in my mind is, like, you're looking at what is the demand or what is the goal, so, the Madlab's model, why I think it would work so well with what you guys are doing is, we sit down and do a 3-day assessment with every client, and we probably do around, 18 personal training sessions before the possibility of going into a group. And the reason why we do that is to really figure out what they want and then help them get there. You know what I mean? So you're trying to tailor make something. When you say, okay, they could be into football or soccer or tennis or whatever, like, what is it we're trying to accomplish? And for a lot of people, it's just basically having a good life. You know what I mean? And if that means being jacked, like, I wouldn't mind being jacked, what would that mean to my life, and what does this look like? So, what you're really doing is you're allowing coaches a higher level of competency to meet what their clients' needs are, is essentially what you're saying there.
Oh, yeah. And on those learning levels, you're finding out where they are, right? We all want to assume that they're going to get to that big stage fastest, but they're not. So you're talking 18 sessions. This is an opportunity to identify even how they learn. So simplifying even coaching, I take 3 approaches, and simply this: do, see, say. So how are my athletes going to pick up my cues and my directions? do, that's where I'm leading y'all. So you say, all right, we're going to set up in our squats, and I break down the position, right? Toes forward, knees over your arches, you're in steps, and I'm giving you direction exactly what to do with your body. And I'm watching them. Do they have a mind-muscle connection for that? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. If they don't, guess what I can do? I can rely on the visual. Okay, see. So you're going to take a look at me set up and then do your best to mimic my movement, right? So I get up, I set up in that foot position, show them what it is. So now I'm asking them to do it and giving them a model, right? The mirror neurons that we got for them to do it. And say could be anything that connects with them. Again, I work with a lot of sport athletes, so I use sport references. So I'm going to say, all right, well, show me your ready position to return a serve, right? We got our toes forward. My knees are my arches, my instep. I'm nice and relaxed. I got to bounce. Well, that's our squat position at Power Athlete. So I made I made a connection with them so they can get into a familiar position. So do, see, say, that's essentially, that's coaching. If I can accomplish anything, I said the same thing for those three things, but it took different approaches for my athletes to get in the position that we needed them to do. So again, working 18 sessions one-on-one, I can identify what the best learning tool for my athlete is. And then when I get the group class, then I know that personal level, I can just fire off the direction, the cue that they need in that moment in time. And I can manage a whole group class because I have a connection with these athletes. And I mean, that's a thing that's definitely lost with the group classes. Think about how these, I won't name anything, but how cycling classes, how, hour-long fitness is taken over. But at the same time, what are we missing? The connection with the athlete, the goals, the direction, that empathy that really empowers and makes this what it is. So
I think you mentioned that. I think fitness has been dominated by one new fucking fad or one new thing to do over and over. What we're trying to say is, hey, let's get you fit for life. Let's do the right things to get you the goals that you want, whether that is high-level sports, whether that's beer league hockey, whether that is, just keeping a good general physical preparedness to do whatever you want, being jacked at the beach, whatever it is. Let's figure out what that is and tailor something around what you are. And, in our model, you could look at it and say, well, they should be one-on-one all the time. Some people see that one-on-one all the time. Well, I think there's a place for that. And our coaches, what we kind of see is 80% of people are doing like probably a once a month PT in group class at certain points. And maybe they're doing like 2 or 3 months of personal training before they maybe move into a once a week PT in group. And there's that stuff is limitless. So, what we're really telling coaches and what we're telling the outside world is, we're not selling personal training. We're not selling group classes. We're not selling specialty programs. We're not selling CrossFit or spin or whatever the new thing is, red theory or whatever, green theory. We're not selling any of that stuff because most of that stuff is something prepackaged and marketed and sold. You know what I mean? What we're selling is a coaching experience to hire a professional coach to take care of your health and fitness for life, right? And that could involve a whole myriad of things. And we're going to figure out what you are and what your goals are, which is pretty much the same thing you're saying.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we take the same approach whether we're working with a professional athlete, a military athlete, or just a general population athlete, right? It's train like an athlete, look like an athlete. Our objective, our perspective, our filter is athleticism. And think of that long term, right? Athleticism to an individual could mean playing with their grandkids, could mean, taking their golf game another 10 years versus just, having the glory years. So definition, that's pretty personal for everyone. Our objective, though, is just movement, right? It's not a score. It's not points. It's movement. Our objective is to make you a better mover. And we honestly apply the same perspective, the filter for professional, military, and anyone. It's just military lives are on the line. with professional, your livelihood's on the line. And then with anyone else, it's going to be your quality of life is on the line. So what are you willing to sacrifice, right? We're definitely taking a long-term approach and doing our damnedest to really sell that. It's not sexy. And all of our stuff is little things that are extremely challenging. We just disguise them as warm-ups. But people don't value the warm-up. That's what we're seeing. They just want to get to the condo, the conditioning, the points, the scores. And that's unfortunately a short-term thinking. But our objective, again, is to add value back to the coach and empower them and educate them to the point where they can have that conversation to appeal, to get their athletes to invest in where it counts. And that's honestly the warm-up, which then just trickles into the speed, the strength, the power, whatever it is we want to do for training.
That's cool. So let's just change tack a little bit. I think our listeners and people are going to be at Pro Coach Day, April 14th, a couple of days away.
Oh, yeah.
Text your mind in Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, just give them a little bit of two things. What do we have in store for the people on Saturday? And then, we're going to be airing this thing probably sooner rather than later. We're going to have sort of an offer for what Power Athlete can offer Madlab, Madlab coaches. So maybe talk about those two things. What are we doing in Atlanta? And then what is our offer for them to get better, become better coaches inside the system? Right?
So we're going to be introducing Power Athlete's definition of athleticism. So that's going to really paint the picture of our objective, our perspective, our training principles, and really how you can apply it to your own personal training, then any of the clients that you're working with, and most importantly, educating and empowering your coaches. So we're going to invest in our coaches, invest in our understanding of this stuff, because that's going to lead to more buy-in, right? It's not just making up a why. And we've all been there at coaches, right? Somebody asks us a question we don't know. Rather than saying, I don't know, we provide some made-up why. No, we're going to give you exactly what it is. So at the weekend, it's going to be introducing the definition of athleticism, our perspective of that long-term athleticism continuum. So we're always progressing down that continuum. And then warm-up movements that you can take immediately starting Monday, right? As soon as you get back to your spot, and apply them. So I go to all different forms of strength clinics, whether it's speaking or attending. And what I look for is a speaker to have something they give you to apply, right? It's not just showing off my athletes did this, or here's a spreadsheet, or here's badass information that is over your head, but it's going to make me look smart. No, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to give you 1, 2, 3 movements for warm-ups that you can apply on Monday. And then you can start to see how really unathletic your athletes are, and then it'll help invest in that education piece, which, again, we have online courses. So we do in-person clinics, but also the big thing that we're pushing is the online curriculum to set you up when we do meet you in person. We can have a deeper, more in-depth conversation because you have a base level of knowledge.
Right. So you guys have sort of a Tom and JJ have been going through it, and they like it. Is that you sort of have a testing? You have a sort of a test out of the online material, right? Can you explain that, how that works? So
we're partnering up with a lot of formal strength and conditioning organizations, and then to really invest, we need to have a scale with that. So we do add testing to the end of this. Any of our courses are going to be NSCA CEUs. You get along with completing and passing those courses. So we want it to invest in coaches that are investing in their education. So we have CEUs attached through the NSCA for our course. And at the end of it, if you're interested in really diving further into the Power Athlete methodology, we have the opportunity to come out to our ranch in Texas and then really flex your ability and your understanding of our methodology to become a Power Athlete Block 1 coach. So these are then...
What I anticipate is you'll be doing CEU. So if a coach does your program, one is he's going to have so much more juice with these clients. Every time I see our coaches go learn new stuff, they come back, they're juiced, they start applying it right away, their business gets better. So you get that. Number two is you're going to have CEUs for SCA and Madlab. Like going through Madlabs, we have four steps. It's junior 1, junior 2, senior 1, senior 2, and then the last step is associate coach. So there'll be a CEU program where we have a power athlete involved in as well. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just actually showing up for a 2-day thing and leaving. So there's a continuing education piece to all of this, both men and power athlete. So,
and I mean that's the sign of a good product, right? And if you want to apply a philosophy to us, I said even though we're principle based, our philosophy would definitely be in line with Bruce Lee, right? Jeet Kune Do. We're going to take information, put it into a system that we can teach, and if it doesn't help better that our mission, our product, our package, or our system, we're just going to throw it away, discard it. So that's it is an ever-evolving piece. If we find we can deliver an information or a component better, we're going to make that adjustment and deliver that to our people.
Awesome. So we're going to be hanging out Friday night, and then Saturday night we can barbecue with all the owners and stuff. So imagine they'll be picking your brain, and you look like a pretty cool guy. So I imagine you can handle a beer or two and a couple of burgers.
Yeah, beer 12. And I'm a talker, so
that's good. That's good. You're also the most reliable guy at Power Athlete at getting back to me, so I appreciate that.
Well, be sure to text John that. Just remind him, because I'm taking a break from our field work here to get some networking and some work in. So I'm going to get an earful when I get back, and if you all got my back, it'll help out.
Definitely. So is John in LA now, or Orange County?
He's taken off this afternoon. So we're finishing up our project here, and then he leaves probably next couple hours.
For those of you guys at home, we just want to explain. It hasn't been the easiest thing to explain, and I never know how to lay this out, so I'm just going to say it. John's dad passed away of a really quick illness, which was only diagnosed, I think, around Christmas, and it happened pretty quick. So the wake is tomorrow or the next Friday, I think, out there, Thursday or Friday out in Orange County. So Tex, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got involved, like your background, how you got involved with John, and you're like their designated hitter this weekend. So, yeah, sell Tex. No.
It's been a long ride. Been a long road, but essentially a Division III lacrosse player from Texas, and that should say it all, because this state is not known for the sport of lacrosse. But I was too small to play football in college, but I couldn't leave the team environment behind, and I wasn't about to just go join Texas Tech and pay for a fraternity. No, I wanted to lead. I wanted to just be more. So I took an opportunity, took some money to go play some ball at Marymount University. And my understanding of sport in college is only based off football, in which other guys went to go play, and you get a strength and conditioning coach. You get a summer packet to hit and train to prepare for your season. But I didn't get any of that. So I expected just weight room, typical college sport experience, but I walked into a private Division III school where there was no football players on my team, just lacrosse players, and nobody lifted weights. And I walked into a fitness center, not a weight room. So my whole life was lift weights, run as fast as you can, and play your sport, but I didn't have any of that in college. But I was not as skilled as my teammates, so I knew I'm a leader, I'm a winner, I want to play. The only advantage I had was being a better athlete, being stronger, faster than everyone. So I found Craigslist, squat rack, and started just filling up our fitness center without really administration. I just did it, and they were none the wiser because nobody went down to that fitness center. So then I asked teammates to join me and took on the responsibilities of a strength and conditioning coach as a player. And problem was I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. As hard as I was working outside off the field, it wasn't transferring over to my sport. And I was always asking that question and always looking for direction, but I didn't have it. And my school didn't have strength as a major. So constantly trying to answer the question of how do you transfer your training, your hard work, to your goal, to your sport. And it wasn't until I was a grad assistant coach. So I finished my 4 years, became a grad assistant coach for the team, and I took on my first training session formal with the team. These were my former teammates. They were still my friends, but now they were my athletes. And I asked one of the seniors to kick up and do a handstand because we didn't have enough barbells to press overhead. How are we going to get strong overhead? Boom, handstands, easy. But the senior kicked up into a handstand and he tore his rotator cuff. And I took away his last opportunity to play a sport he loved. None of us are going beyond that D3 team. So that was it. I needed to find someone to give me direction for strength and conditioning. So this is September 2009. I got on the Google and found John Wellborn. Never heard of CrossFit, none of this. And he had a course. The next CrossFit football course was December in Oakland, California. I'm on the East Coast. I took my last dollar, grad school, and I flew all the way to California to spend 2 days, 2 days with John and a man named Rafael Ruiz, who was John's strength coach in the NFL, and then put on the early days of CrossFit football. And that was my first exposure to true strength and conditioning. So it was all just stealing programs or doing what we did in high school. It was not specific towards, again, the goal, the demands, identifying where an athlete stands and how do we get them to those demands. So it was an extremely enlightening and eye-opening experience. I was able to take everything I learned back to my D3 players. I coached there for 3 years and realized I was a hell of a better strength coach than I was a sport coach. So from there, I jumped to Georgetown University down to University of Texas, back to Georgetown, ran into the politics of college strength and conditioning. That's for a whole different podcast, and decided I'm going to invest again in education. And I went down and did an apprenticeship with Rafael Ruiz, and that's the time he was working with USA swim team, gearing up in 2014 for the 16 Olympics. So I got to see field, court, sport training, and then swimming. So those are the two biggest extremes, right? Football and swimming. So I got to see true kind of every perspective of athleticism preparation. And all the while, very fortunate that John remembered me from the seminar, and he hired me to help out and teach the weekend course CrossFit football. And so I was able to take that internship because I had, some funding to go invest in education, but traveled 24 countries, 6 continents, been around the world and back, just, teaching and diving into athleticism, but answering that question that I always wanted to, that always freaking, was my itch to, how do you get all your hard work, your training to transfer to the field, the court, the rink? So that it was a long journey just to answer that question, but very fortunate for John and his mentorship, his guidance, and really his willingness to learn, right? Checking the ego at the door, me bringing different information from all these different sources in and seeing how it fit into the grand scheme, this big picture of our objective and our methodology.
I'll tell you, I'm really glad to hear you say a few things there. From trying to train Olympic swimmers and then trying to train someone going to play in the NFL, I can't even fathom how that really works. But I tell you, it really brings back my early days. I was one of the first CrossFit guys, and it was Greg in his garage. He was broke in 2004. There was nothing. I mean, there was just nothing, and he had to start at something, which was amazing. And as it went on, it kind of became, oh fuck! If you want to go train ultra marathon, do CrossFit. If you wanted to, lift a house, do CrossFit. If you wanted to, go teach small children how to do whatever, do CrossFit. If you want to join the circus, do CrossFit. It was like, that was a panacea for everything, and it cured every problem you ever had. I remember even thinking in early days, dude, anybody that could do this shit for a year has got to be a good person. You know what I mean? We got ourselves so fucked up about what real fitness or training was. I'm not slagging CrossFit. It was awesome. It was the greatest start ever, but it kind of went off in directions that it would just cure any disease. It would take care of any problem you ever had, and it really only does one thing. So defining what that one thing is and saying, okay, you're going to be the best at that. that's a relief to me to hear you talk. So I can't wait to hear more about this in
Oh yeah,
in Atlanta.
and
Yeah.
definitely a lot of learning on the way, and those learning came from unfortunate injuries, right? But you know, actually, dropping the ego as a coach and saying, you know what did I do wrong in this program to lead to that non-contact injury on the field? And a lot of athletes should never get hurt during training, and if your sport is training, you should never get hurt. I'll freaking put a stake in the ground for that as well. So yeah, look forward to just freaking diving into a social atmosphere, and then sharing our methodology, our approach, because athleticism, man, it's a key, in my extremely biased opinion, to unlocking a good life.
Yeah, I tell you what, I wish I had you guys. I played college hockey at McGill, and we had nothing. I was doing bodybuilding and doing some jogging, and it certainly didn't prepare us at all for hockey. It was like probably the worst thing ever for a power and speed sport like hockey. I look at my son now; he's 2 years old, and he can lift the barbell and this kind of stuff. He runs around the gym trying to pick stuff up all the time, and he can pick up like a 16-pound kettlebell, whatever that is, and he only weighs like 30 pounds. So it's kind of cool. And I'm glad people like you are out there to lead them in the right direction. Because, I mean, even for me, CrossFit in 2004 compared to what I was doing in, 92, 91 at McGill, I would have been so much a better athlete if I'd have been even deadlifting and squatting and doing pull-ups and stuff instead of doing bodybuilding and fucking jogging 5K. It's like
that's the age-old, if only I had this. Right.
Yeah.
But
well, my son can have that, so I'm stoked. We're right about the 35-minute mark, Chief. I think we think we've got most of this out there. Chief, you see anything else you want to throw out, or Tex, you want any other final comments before we see you here in Cumming, Georgia?
Just you got me thinking about the history of hockey strength and conditioning. So I got some good stuff for you because, yeah, freaking Russia was doing some cool things with their hockey team and why they were who they were. So the cool history there.
Pavel Bure?
I don't know the names. I just know the strength side of things.
Pavel Bure was like the fastest guy in the NHL forever. He was a rookie of the year. He made the Hockey Hall of Fame and probably only played 800 games. And his dad was a strength and conditioning coach for the Russian national team.
So what was his last name?
Bure, B-U-R-E. Maybe his dad might not have been. I think his dad came from a track and field background.
But
right?
Yeah, there's
doing shit that nobody in the NHL was doing. He came in like 91, lit the fucking place on fire. And he was kind of a goofy skater too. He didn't even look smooth, And he just boom, he was like lightning.
Yeah, maybe that name has been in the things I picked up, but I'll dive back in, and yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, so Pavel Bure is the name. I think his dad was big influence on it, but maybe the guy who got credit for it, or maybe the guy who actually trained him was a different name. I just know Pavel Bure did that training, and I look at what a lot of the teams in the NHL are still doing. The Canadians, when I played hockey at McGill, the Montreal Canadiens came in and we did our testing together. And I was 21 years old. I was doing some steroids at the time, mind you. But I was 21 years old, and I beat everybody on the Canadiens team and all their training, except for one guy out bench pressed me. And I still didn't do fuck all for my hockey. Like, I was terrible compared to what I could have been or should have been.
Yeah.
It was really – and I don't know how much more better it's got, but I know the guy that trains the Canucks, and where his background's from a really goofy thing. It's not what Pavel Bure was doing 30 years ago even, you know what I mean?
Well, even now it's changed. Mike Boyle's doing great things. He was with the Bruins, and that seems to spread across the hockey culture, which is great. Gary Roberts. You ever heard of Gary Roberts? No.
He's like he used to play in the league, and then he got his neck injured, and he thought he was retired and done forever, and he got into some training. His training looks a lot like sort of stuff we're more towards what we're doing with some plyometrics and then some speed and explosiveness and some lifting. He trained Chris Chelios and a lot of different guys that stayed in the league for a long time. There might have been some good drugs mixed in there too, but he had some, if you take a look at that in your research, but I'll take a look at that stuff too. I haven't thought about that stuff in years.
Oh yeah. And a lot of my VO2 max arguments when speaking. I'm on a mission to freaking get rid of the conditioning test at the college level because it's all bullshit. So I applied a lot of the Russian speed stuff versus the Canadians who were all VO2 maxed out.
Yeah, and the Wingate test, the VO2 max, that Wingate test is like, dude.
Yeah, and the beauty was the Cold War, all Russian strength and conditioning doors were shut, and so Canadians were, having these amazing scores on all their conditioning tests, but then getting their dicks kicked in. So
yeah,
where's the disconnect?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about it.
Cool.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Chief, you want to take us home? Tex, thanks very much. I'll be looking at. We can't wait to meet you. Friday night, Tom will pick you up. I'll get you all sorted out. I'll text both of you guys, and we'll do all that stuff. But looking forward to meeting you, brother.
All right, guys. Appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for jumping on board. If you guys want to be a pro coach date, just check the show notes. We'll put the link up. Or you can email us, info@madlabgroup.com, and we'll send you in the right direction. You got like 1 day to purchase tickets. So if you want to be there, you better jump on it now. Otherwise,
we've got pretty much a full house. We got I think with all of our crew there, it's going to be like 50 people. So that was as good as it could ever been expected. So if anybody wants to get in, we could probably shove a few more seats in the back. But it's going to be a full house for you, Tex. It's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah. All right, boys.
All right.
Go fuck yourself. Patti loves you.